Hey guys, Wages World here. It is March 11th, 2020. I'm coming at you here with a video. Alright guys, I'm going to start with space weather today, okay guys? Then I'll talk about the CV-19 into this, because there's been some stuff happening today on that too. But we actually have some solar weather to talk about. It's actually kind of cool. We had a solar flare that was not very big at all, okay? But it did happen, and it's from this old sunspot that was had polarity like the new solar cycle 25. So that is significant to talk about stuff that's coming into the next solar cycle. And the reason why I'm showing this, because it is a flare, even though it be small, that does point towards a slight uptick in the action on the sun. And I do think that that's probably, as time goes by, obviously it's going to continue to go up as we climb out of the solar minimum. But, that's just the natural cycle of the sun. So, but what I'm going to do here is I got you over here it's at ISWA. SDO, for some reason, right now is not working. It'll let you put in a date but no time. It's probably just a glitch. I'm sure it'll be fixed here whenever. But there's other places to look at this, which is why I got you here. But the one on the left is the 131 angstrom. And the one on the right is the 171. Now, I show you guys the one on the right a lot. The one on the left, not so much. But, whatever. It's just looking at different angstroms of light is all that is, so we can see different things. It tends to draw. It's kind of like putting a filter on a regular camera. Most editing software also has a bunch of filters you can use. And obviously we use those to try to draw out what's actually there. It doesn't necessarily, our visible eye spectrum doesn't see very much, hardly at all. If you guys were to look at the whole light spectrum, our visible light that our eyes can see is really, really small compared to what's actually out there. So that's why we use this. So when somebody tells you that, if you got to put a filter on it, it's not there. That's not true. Okay? Don't believe that. It's just simply not true. I would show those people a visible light spectrum chart and say, hey, why are these other light spectrums even there then? Because something had to show up in that light spectrum at some point in time. And the only way we were going to see it is if they put a filter on it. So that's what I'm trying to say. Now, anyway, so I'll show you this flare. I'll show you over here first. It's not real big, guys. You see that right there, what it just happened? That was the flare. Okay, I'll zoom in a little bit more, and we'll be able to watch it here. You'll see that right there. You see that? It's just a small little pop. Okay, now it was facing us, okay, when this happened. But also, I want to point out, guys, this is another way to show you guys that a solar flare, when it happens, it ain't going to matter what we're doing, because it's here in 8 minutes. We will not get any lead time or warning on a solar flare if it ever comes our way. If we get a big, huge solar flare, the first thing, like I'm talking where it knocks power and stuff out, that's when you're going to know it. Nobody's going to be issuing any kind of emergency warnings on that kind of stuff, because it simply won't help. There's no going underground or that kind of stuff, which you don't need to for a huge solar flare anyway. But, for the most part, even the bigger flares, our Earth is able to fend it off. Okay? Now, when we're talking about big, big solar flares, like Carrington event size, that's the stuff that we talk about. That's what we have to pay attention to, because those events do happen, and they will happen again. And that's why we try to bring awareness to this. But this right here is nothing to really, obviously it didn't do anything to us because it's here and gone, right? So I just wanted to show this to you because it's neat, the fact that, that it is happening. We don't get to talk about, very many actual solar flares throughout the year anyway, especially during solar minimum. But this is one of those cases that it did happen. Now, we can look at it in different angstroms. This particular sunspot right here is actually not even classified as a sunspot anymore. It's just kind of an active region. I don't think it was classified as a sunspot for very, very long at all. It may not even have gotten a number. I'm not really sure. At the very least, though, it's a very active region, which is actually starting to calm down, especially after that flare. It seems like after that flare, it's like some of the energy around it kind of got lost. But, they do build back up, too. We've seen that multiple times. I've actually seen a solar flare almost go completely away, and then within 6 to 8 hours, it's bigger than it ever was. That just happens, So they can pop up anywhere at any time on the sun, guys. And also, I'm going to say this too. You can have solar flares, CMEs, all that kind of stuff, filament releases. They don't have to be around sunspots or coronal holes. They can happen at any time, anywhere on the sun. Now, there is a much larger chance of them happening around sunspots and active regions, okay? Coronal prominences. That, there most definitely, more things come out from around those things, but it's not a necessity. I have to keep that, I really want to keep that in your guys' mind. They can happen at any time, anywhere on the sun. And there's a lot of times we don't even get to see them. Because if you think about it, we get to see about 3/4 of the sun. Not even that anymore. Because, the main satellites that we're using, guys, is the ones out in front of Earth, which is kind of like right here. We got SOHO and we got SDO like right out in front of us, right? About 1 million miles away from the Earth. And it's about 1 million miles closer to the sun than what we are, right? And we got Stereo A over here, and we had Stereo B. And those really ain't in the right positions. They're more at this angle. Okay, they're not directly on the side. Now, they were put out there to give us some sort of a idea of what's going on so we could try to monitor the backside of the sun a little bit. Well, we don't get any information from this satellite anymore, Stereo B. If they lost communication with it, now they've gotten it, I think they said they got some of it back, but I don't know what's going on. We don't get to see that data at all. We were seeing a lot of things on that one. Scott was making a lot of good captures over there, along with other people. Okay? And that thing just mysteriously went into a roll or whatever, and it lost communication. But they were able to regain communication because they still chart where it's at. So they know where it's at. But whether or not they get good, reliable data on it, I think that they probably do. But we don't get it. We don't get to see it. So, but anyway, I say this because, the line of sight here off this satellite doesn't allow us to see the backside of the sun completely. So stuff is happening on the backside that we can't see. Now, we do get to see some of the energy once it leaves the sun and goes on out the back. That's when we first see it. Okay? So yeah, guys, there's a solar flare. I was going to do this last night. I actually seen this right when it happened. And I actually made a small video, but I decided to wait because it was only like 2 minutes long. And I really didn't have a whole lot of time to be making a whole bunch of content right at that second. So, anyway, we'll talk about something else here in just a second. Okay, I got you over here at Space Weather, the NOAA site, Space Weather Prediction Center. Okay, the solar wind right now is at 303. Now, the first place I seen the solar flare happening, because that little solar flare is actually kind of hard to see if you're just looking at the SDO or whatever satellite you're using. This is where these charts really come in handy because they give us, some sort of an idea, and it kind of sometimes points us to go look. And this is exactly what happened with me this time. Okay? So when we get solar, this is how they measure these. All right? The solar X-ray flux. It shows basically, hey, we had a solar flare. And you see this right here, this spike. Okay? Now, what you're going to see over here on the left, they class these flares. Obviously, we hear about the great X-class flares. Now, when I first started looking into any of this stuff at all before I even started my channel, I used to think why they called it an X-class flare, because every time you see it happen, like a decent sized one, the light comes out and the camera interprets it like it looks like an X. It's seriously, that's what it looks like. Like, say this is the sun and the flare happens right here. You'll actually see little hash marks. Well, that's too small to be showing. Hold on. They will look like this. Okay? And then obviously there'll be a light shining this way and that way. That's how the camera interprets it. So it actually puts an X shape there. That's just what the camera sees. But they don't call it an X flare because of the shape that it's making to the camera. The X flare is actually the strength of it. Now you can see over here PO, P1, RO, R1, R3, R5, right? Obviously, the higher up you go, the worse the flare is. This one I don't think even got into C-class range. Okay, B-class solar flares, but most people don't even know they happen because we don't even usually typically even talk about it because they're just so small and they're not doing hardly anything. And again, guys, when these things happen and pop off, it's here and gone in 8 minutes. So, it's just, we're not going to see, for example, some of the tools take a capture every 12 minutes. So if it happens in that period of time where there's no data being collected, we're not even going to see it on that tool. Now, we always pick it up on these instrument tools right here because these things are a little different than taking a capture, okay? They're just simply collecting data. But here you go. Geomagnetic activity, obviously, but there's one more thing I want to show you guys here. You see how this one, see the date, March 9th, 10th, 11th, and it's continuing on up to date, okay? This is important, what I'm getting ready to tell you guys. Now, you see how we're all in the middle, which is awesome. That's where we should be. No cosmic ray concerns, no geomagnetic storm concerns. That's awesome. We want to be in the middle, right? Not on the bottom, not on the top. But you see the date, March 11th, and it's continuing on to current. Well, if you go down here to this particular graph, this is what you're going to see from now on. Okay, do you see, this is probably going to be taken off of this site. And the reason why, unless they change it, they may go off of what I'm getting ready to tell you. You see where the dates are? March 9th and March 10th. Okay, we had this crazy looking little spike. Now, you guys know what that was? Anybody looks at that, a lot of times we interpret that like a cosmic ray spike, because we do see those sometimes. But what this is this time, if you guys remember about a month and a half ago, I was talking about how they were going to shut GOES 14 and 15 off as a test and then turn them back on, right? Well, they did that. And they tested them, and now what they were testing was to see how GOES 16 would react. Not really react, but how well it was going to be able to collect data and all that kind of thing. So what's happening now, guys, is we will not be getting any more information from GOES 14 or 15. Those things have been shut off. Everything will be coming from GOES 16, one satellite. Now, I had an issue with this a little bit because, that is cutting our data collection down. Now, we're not going to get to see as much. Now, is that done on purpose? We can talk about that all day long. I'm not even going to go there right now, okay? But something else that bothers me, you're going to have about an hour of the day, every day, that we won't be getting any data from the GOES satellite 16 because it's being blocked by the Earth as it's orbiting the Earth, okay? We'll see those little, they call it radio blackout type of stuff, okay? As it's orbiting the Earth, it'll go behind it, and then there is no data to collect. In other words, it goes dark for like an hour. So if something happens in that hour, we're not going to see it unless we go to a different tool, which is what we'll do, okay? So don't think that we're not going to be able to see what's going on, because we will. But some of these tools and some of these models will be affected by that. And we have to keep that in mind when we're looking at it, okay? Some of the magnetopause models and stuff like that most certainly will be affected because they do get some of their data collection from those satellites. A lot of them operated off of those completely. So, and I'll show you an example here just real quick. Okay, you guys remember this site, right? I used to take you guys here all the time. I started phasing this out a little bit for this reason. Okay? It's current solar data from NOAA. Okay, this is just a site that I would go to and look and show you guys data. We're still going to get, this is coming from GOES 16. I'm sorry. This is GOES 14 and 15 are no longer operating. You see where this stopped. This is the same stuff I just showed you. But this whole site is being operated off of those satellites. Every one of this data collection. So right now, as it stands, this is no good. There's nothing here we can learn from this site unless they change it to reflect GOES 16's data. So at this point, I'm not going to show you guys this anymore because it is absolutely no good. You can see where everything went dark. All right? And all this stuff in here, all this stuff, that's 2 days of before right now. So there's no reason to even show this to you guys anymore. And I won't. because we're not going to get nothing out of it. But this does show, hey, yeah, they shut those 2 satellites off. That was a planned event. They come out and told us, hey, we're going to do this. And so don't freak out about that. Don't think there's some sort of grand conspiracy to do whatever with that. Now, there could be, why they shut them off. They're old, guys. They really are. They're old satellites. I mean, when we're talking about satellite age, they're pretty freaking old. So that's why they did it. I don't think that they did, they may add another satellite to this whole system. And, these models might start trying to pull data from elsewhere. I don't know. But if they do fire this thing back up from a different, from getting data from a different satellite, I'll show it to you guys again. But this is why you guys won't see this one anymore. So just wanted to show you guys that. Okay, guys, one more thing on that. Okay, now this is a model I show you guys a lot. Okay, you guys know that I show this to you a lot. Now, as you can tell, it's still receiving data. Okay, and these goes off the GOES satellite too, but what's different is this. See, that's GOES 14. That's one of the ones that was shut down. 14 and 15 were shut down. GOES 13 is still operating. Also, they may have went and added GOES 16 to this. They just haven't changed it yet here on the tab. I don't know about that yet. But this thing is getting data from a satellite out there. So this thing is still active and working. Again, I don't like the fact that it's just one satellite. I really wish that they had more than one because, well, we will get a blackout area. That's one of the reasons why they were using 2 anyway, so they could overlap each other and not lose. They would be able to collect data from around the clock without having any blackouts. So, we'll just have to wait and see how it all pans out, guys. But that's what's going on with that. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you an update on the COVID-19 real quick, okay? First thing I'm going to say, WHO, World Health Organization, has finally labeled this thing as a pandemic. I think that's, they should have done this a long time ago, in my opinion. Obviously, these are official numbers, and I think they're junk. So I'll just leave that at that. But something I will say, we can kind of expect a similar, I don't know how to say this, a similar uptick and downtick in how we get this over here. Okay, we can kind of look at what happened to China, right? It went like this for a very small amount of time, and then all of a sudden, bam, right? And then it went up, then it kind of leveled off, did it again, and it kind of went down, whatever, right? Well, why did that happen like that? Well, there's a whole lot of reasons for it, but one of the biggest reasons is the incubation period of this whole thing. Now, we have to keep in mind that from the time we get our first case over here, whatever day that was back in, I think it was in February, early February, when we first got our first case, we have to consider that the incubation period of that. So now that they were over here, there's another 14-day incubation period. 14 to 27 days from what I hear. So that's why this lag has happened. That we were just going on borrowed time. Okay, because there was people out there that were infected that they didn't know. Bunches of them. And that's why we're seeing these numbers now. Not to mention that people are now getting tested, which wasn't happening before. So, there's no way we're going to get exact counts on what's going on here, but we can look at this and look at what happened over at China and kind of understand that we will see an uptick, which we're already seeing, okay? 2 days ago, the number was roughly at 554 in the United States. Right now, it is at 1,135. Now, the biggest thing I have with this whole issue, guys, is the financial part of it. I've said since the beginning of this that that's what we needed to worry about because people are going to freak out. Anybody that's been to the store anywhere in the past week, you're seeing people act in fear. Do yourself a favor and do not do that. How do you keep from doing that? Well, you listen to the news, as far as alternative news, even some of the mainstream news now, okay? You can get some decent information about this now. And you stay prepared. This should show people that you should at least have 2 to 3 weeks of stuff in your house for no other reason, just for peace of mind. And buy stuff that you would use every day anyway. That way it doesn't go to waste and you're not wasting your money. If you buy something that you would only eat in an emergency, you know, that's okay. Yeah, that's fine if you have that kind of funds, but most of us don't. You know, if you want to buy one of those buckets that have, you know, emergency stuff for like 30 days or whatever, I think that's awesome if people can do that. But that is stuff in that bucket that you're going to have to either throw away or eat if nothing ever happens. So if you buy stuff out of those things, you know, at the prepper places, make sure that you like what's inside of that. That way you can eat it even if we don't have so-called, you know, global whatever. So they finally labeled this a pandemic, which I think is good. But as you can see, guys, our numbers in the U.S. have jumped. They're jumping everywhere, except for China. They're leveling off. 2 days ago, it was 22 cases, and then, you know, it kind of just, it's leveling off. Now, is that all true? I sure hope so. Are we going to get another wave of this? Nobody knows. But they are developing stuff, and I think they've already had it since the beginning, probably. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate on, you know, like vaccines and stuff, and should we take them or should we not? You know, everybody has so many polarized views on that. Anytime somebody talks about it, both sides of that get attacked. And that's not good, because it kills the conversation. We got to be able to talk about this in a respectful way. And that's what I'm saying. Nobody's going to listen to you if you're screaming and yelling and from the top of the mountain, hey, you're wrong, and all that kind of stuff. People quit listening. So anything you say after that becomes nothing. And that's why I run my channel the way I do. I don't like to do that kind of thing. So that's what I do. You know, and if you want to build your credibility, and this goes out to anybody, be able to admit when you're wrong. Because that's doing you good, and it's showing people that you are able to admit when you're wrong. So they know that you're striving for the truth. You don't have to be right 100% of the time. We're never going to be 100% right all the time. That's where your credibility comes into. If you're able to look at it and say, yeah, I made a mistake. Bam, fix it. Then people know. They see you. They see you do that. So there you go. I mean, for me in my life, I trust people that do that. Then I trust people that will, you know, just go all the way to the ends of the earth, even knowing that they're wrong, saying that they're right. You know, anything else before or after that, if they want to demand that they're right, and you know dead nuts that they're wrong, man, I don't know what to say about that. But, yeah. Anyway, enough ranting. Sorry, guys. But, yeah, so that's what's going on with the virus. I'm going to give you a quick update on the Schumann real quick. Okay, guys, this is the Schumann update. Now, guys, we're supposed to resonate or vibrate. The Earth's base frequency is 7.83. Now, as you can see, we've had small spikes. Okay. Now, I call them small. They're kind of intense, and they go pretty high frequency, but they're short-lived. You see them? The striped lines. Okay. Typically, what we see is this when we see events, right? So we're in the middle of an event right as we're talking of some sort. We're getting a spike. We're getting an intense reading right there. Okay, so if you're hearing, you know, ringing in your ears and all that kind of stuff, go look at this. Because this could be the, you know, if you're not feeling well, this can actually cause this. I've talked about this a lot. And I'll talk about it more because I think it's important. All right, we're still getting our dashed line too that we can't figure out what it is. If it's a code of some sort or whatever, I don't know. I just simply don't know what it is, guys. But, you know, it is interesting to look at, and we'll continue to try to figure out what that is, but at this point I can't tell you what it is. But anyway, yeah. Also, with these little spikes, when we don't get the like event that starts and then continues and stops like hours later, when we get these continual like spikes and then boom, spikes, boom. To me, if your mood is like a roller coaster right now, this could be why. Because we're getting these little intense little blasts of higher frequency. Then it goes back to normal. Bam, hits you again in about a half hour. You know, so if your mood's up and down, this could be why. Just saying. So, anyway, guys, I think I am going to end it there. I'm going to be doing another video too, guys. That, yeah. So just keep an eye out for that next video. I might give you another update or whatever, but I got something planned I want to do real quick. But anyway, guys, God bless. Yeshua saves, and you can drink this Kool-Aid.